Donald Trump doesn't just surround himself with yes men and ass kissers. Donald Trump surrounds himself with people who are like him. And by that, I mean criminals, which is why I wasn't surprised by a new report about the criminal scandal erupting due to the dark past of none other than Donald Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, who was just as corrupt as Donald Trump was in her past life as a candidate that we are going to get into and why it is causing her huge problems right now. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we can get into this shocking, although unsurprising report about Karoline Leavitt, I want to start where quite literally all of this began, back when Leavitt had the opportunity to ask Donald Trump a question that paints her entire political career when he first ran for president.
Karoline Leavitt, 18-year-old college freshman up the road at St. Anselm. She's got a 10 o'clock Spanish class, so we're going to let her go first.
Absolutely.
Mr. Trump, as everyone knows, and as I personally appreciate, you're very honest and outspoken about a lot of different things. As my father would say, you call a spade a spade. However, many people criticize you for this, saying that you're merciless, ruthless, cold-hearted. What would you like to say to people who think you're too harsh to be the next president of the United States?
It's such a great question. And I had a woman the other day say, Mr. Trump, I love you, I'm voting for you, but are you a nice enough person to be president? I said, you know what? I really am a nice person. I give tremendous amounts of money away. I love to help people. I love people. And you see from upstairs how many people showed up to see me. It's not going to be, though, this time about niceness. It's going to be about competence.
To understand Karoline Leavitt is to understand that she has always been a sycophant. She has always been a cultist, always been a dedicated and loyal follower of Donald Trump. She actually does believe the things she says. It's why she feels so comfortable lying all the time, because she has no values. There's nothing that grounds her. Sure, she wears a cross, but she takes it off when she really has to lie. This is not a person with any conviction except I will do whatever it takes to help Donald Trump be as corrupt, criminal, and damaging to our country as possible. And that included asking Donald Trump for some help when Leavitt herself was trying to do that. And we can see it in a bit of a flashback to Karoline Leavitt's 2022 campaign, not only a trek she took down to Mar-a-Lago, but a question she was asking of Donald Trump. Karoline Leavitt had launched her congressional campaign in July 2021 from her father's Plainstown, New Hampshire used truck dealership. She was one of the nation's first Gen Z congressional candidates, but she was running against a crowded field of 9 others and trailed badly from the earliest primary poll. She was at 7% when she met with Donald Trump. What distinguished Leavitt from her rivals, however, was the fervor of her MAGA platform. In particular, she was an ardent amplifier of the false belief that the 2020 presidential election had been stolen from Trump, at a moment when the former president's embrace of election denialism had gotten him exiled from polite society and mainstream social media. After meeting with Trump, Leavitt was told, "We'll keep watching at Mar-a-Lago and maybe we'll be in touch." Her gambit bought her time and paid off, because despite her long odds at the outset, Leavitt ended up winning her primary, and while she may have lost the general election badly, mind you, the campaign would launch her eventual rise into Trump's inner circle. And here, in this ad, we can see part of the reason Karoline Leavitt lost so badly in her campaign, because it was not good.
I'm Karoline Leavitt.
Yep, that's her. Leavitt pretends she's a conservative, but really she's just a woke Gen Zer. Worships Fauci's mask mandates. Records everything.
Listen up, hoe bags.
Wants to bring her generation's new vision to Congress. You know, mooching off her parents. Running up huge credit card debt. Woke, immature, and irresponsible. Karoline Leavitt for Congress? No, not a chance. Defending Main Street is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Just a humiliating ad, but an ad is one thing. What is worse is what happened during the general election, and that was Karoline Leavitt acting just as corrupt and with just as much criminality as her boss. And now That's all coming back to bite her. Karoline Leavitt chased by creditors after failed congressional bid leaves old campaign in debt. Donald Trump's White House press secretary has a money problem that won't go away. As spring turned to summer, Karoline Leavitt's 2022 congressional campaign committee failed to pay off a penny of the $326,000 it owes across more than 100 creditors, according to a new disclosure filed with the Federal Election Commission. Karoline for Congress raised no money during April, May, or June to help retire the debt, the disclosure indicates. The situation underscores how even the most high-profile political figures in the country sometimes leave their supporters and vendors high, dry, and with little recourse if their campaign hits financial shoals. Much of the campaign's debt stems from illegal and excessive contributions that it accepted several years ago but hasn't returned to donors. Leavitt's committee reported no cash on hand as of June 30th and long ago spent excessive contributions it accepted. Dozens of individual donors are owed refunds, including former New Hampshire governor and former New Hampshire Senate majority leaders. Other creditors include campaign vendors such as Missouri-based consultants, Missouri-based polling firms, and Washington, D.C.-based fundraising firms. In January, Leavitt's congressional committee amended 17 campaign finance reports to account for previously unreported campaign contributions that exceeded federal limits, Notice reported at the time. In April, the Karoline for Congress committee did refund a handful of donors who had contributed more money than legally allowed, including Leavitt's parents. The White House referred open secrets to the Karoline for Congress committee. Rob Phillips of Axe Capital, who serves as the committee's treasurer, did not respond to requests for comment. A source close to Leavitt, who spoke to open secrets on the condition of anonymity, underscored that Leavitt doesn't personally owe any money and that her congressional campaign, which is being audited by the FEC, is working with the FEC through the audit and that the process is ongoing, hence the outstanding debt. In November 2022, the Democrat-aligned Political Action Committee and Citizens United filed an FEC complaint against Leavitt's committee, alleging that it violated campaign finance law by accepting contributions that exceeded federal limits. But more than 2.5 years on, the independent bipartisan body has not ruled on the case against Karoline for Congress. Nor will the FCC rule anytime soon because since May, the agency has lacked the minimum number of commissioners to conduct high-level business, such as formalizing investigations, approving audit recommendations, and issuing civil penalties. The Department of Justice could theoretically involve itself, although it's highly unlikely that the department led by Trump-appointed Attorney General Pam Bondi would investigate a political committee tied to Trump's White House press secretary. Trump alone may nominate new FEC commissioners, whom the U.S. Senate must then confirm. But Trump, Notice reported earlier this month, has yet to send any nominees to the Senate, despite congressional leaders recommending 3 experienced candidates for the president's consideration. Cases like this send a clear message. If you break campaign finance laws, nothing will happen to you. And Citizens United President Tiffany Muller told Open Secrets, "It's open season for corrupt leaders who want to game the system and get away with it." Karoline Leavitt, just as corrupt as her boss, and the idea that Trump is keeping more FEC commissioners from being confirmed. Of course, he's not doing it to help Karoline Leavitt. He just loves corruption and rampant criminality. But it's idiotic. Like, I don't want to say it's laughable because it's not. This is serious. This is wrong. But like, just the level of corruption is astounding. It is staggering. And someone who I think has talked about it more than anyone else, who did a great job breaking it down, was Senator Chris Murphy right here.
But Donald Trump is abusing that authority in ways that honestly shock the conscience. Donald Trump is using the power of his office not to help or protect us, but to enrich himself and his family. He is doing it publicly, brazenly, out in the open. He is, in effect, daring us, specifically daring the legislative branch, the co-equal branch, to stop him. Nearly 3 weeks ago, news broke that the White House had dialed up one of our key allies in the Middle East, the government of Qatar, and it asked that the Qataris give the president a luxury jet that is reportedly worth upwards of $400 million. Now, the nicest jet that I have ever been on is Air Force One, and it's really nice. But the jet that Trump wants to make Air Force One, that he's asking for from the Qataris, makes Air Force One, the current version, look like a tenement house. The Qatari jet that he is asking for, its interior is designed by a famed French designer, complete with a flowing grand staircase, sculpted ceilings, plush carpeting, leather couches, gold furnishings. The plane has been called the world's most luxurious private jet. It includes 9 bathrooms, 5 kitchens, swanky lounges, and a master bedroom suite. Now, the arrangement that Trump proposed to the Qataris would briefly pass the jet through U.S. government hands, but only as reported for just a year or two before it would end up belonging personally to Donald Trump. The U.S. government would essentially be a straw purchaser. The real owner of the jet, for all practical purposes, would be Donald Trump. Now, this kind of gift, a $400 million luxury jet, it has no precedent in American history. No president has ever asked for, never mind been given, a $400 million gift from a foreign nation. Why? Well, because presidents know that that's crossing a line. That is a massive abuse of their power. The leverage that presidents have over other countries that they could use to ask for millions of dollars in gifts, it's supposed to be used to benefit the nation's security, not to enrich themselves. But also, it's just illegal. There is a very specific clause in the Constitution that forbids this kind of gift from a foreign government to a president. And this body is supposed to be in charge of helping to enforce the Constitution. Our founders wrote that clause into the Constitution because they worried about this exact situation, where a president is using his authority like a monarch or a king to make himself the richest person in the world. Now, the Qatar government feels like it had little choice but to say yes when asked for this $400 million gift. Again, briefly to the U.S. government, but really, for all practical purposes, to the president. They felt like they had no choice precisely because an American president has so much power. They have so much leverage, especially over a vulnerable country in the Middle East. In this case, Qatar really needs to keep the United States on its side. Middle East politics, they shift really quickly, and during Trump's first term, when the Qataris were not close to Trump, they paid a price.
This is the most corrupt administration in American history. It's not even a competition. And if it was, I'm sure Karoline Leavitt would steal more money illegally for her campaign to help Donald Trump win it, because that's the type of sycophant she is. And that's the type of person we're going to continue to call out on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.